Hello, queens and kings. Welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, welcome, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Welcome. Today we'll be working on a beaded headband. This one is the one that stands on its own. We're not putting beads on top of a headband. I would say this is more of a traditional one, and the one that we did previously is more of a Western one. This is a request that I got from Noxie. Please inform me if this is the headband that you mean, because when I googled headbands, there were many headbands that came of different types of patterns. I was also watching KZN Entertainment Awards on BET, and I was quite inspired. I saw there was a performance by Zandi Kumalo, and her dancers, they're wearing the headband that we're gonna make. So I'm really, really excited about that. So let's get started. So the first tip is to use threads that are elastic, because you're gonna close up your belt, and then so that when you fit it on your head, the elastic will help to adjust. So this is the first tip. And then there are two kinds of threads that I definitely would recommend. The first one, they call it super elastic thread. It's quite elastic and stretchy. I got it at Lens at H&R. And then the second one, it's almost like a nylon thread, the one that they call a fish rod, but it's elastic. This one is not an elastic. There is an elastic kind. It looks like a nylon thread. So those are the threads that I'm quite confident about. So you don't just use any thread, you use elastic thread so that when you put the headband in your head, the headband will adjust nicely. And then you create the belt that is the size that you desire and the pattern that you desire. And as you can see, it stretches nicely. And I was using the super elastic thread. When you look at it closely, you can see that it's made up of two layers. The part that is inside is like an elastic part, and it has a covering that is like cotton thread. So when you've done and completed your belt pattern to the size and the pattern that you like, you have to mix. You have to join this end and this end. You have to join them together. Now this is the most interesting part for me. So you're first going to pick up 4 white beads that are according to the color. So here are my 4 beads, and then I'm going to insert where I usually insert my beads. I'm really sorry for the background noise. Please forgive me. This is what happens when I shoot during the day. So working with an elastic thread is quite tricky. It's very, very tricky because it just does whatever it wants. It doesn't care where you direct it to go. Okay, so and then you're going to move up to this point, ne? Without picking up any beads. So I'm just going to direct my needle in between the beads, and I keep pulling, and I keep pulling. See? So I did not pick out any beads. Oh, for this size, for my foundation, I only used 8 beads. And then I get to this point, you know? So now I'm going to take the other end and just look at it visually and see when you merge the two sides, which gaps you're supposed to be filling. So we're confident about this part and this part, but there is a huge gap and opening at this part. So now we have to move on our thread to this side and just maneuver around in between the beads and close this gap and also tighten the bond between the two sides. Yeah? So that's the entire point for this pattern. So at this point, and then I would like to turn it like this. Okay. And then I'm trying to look for a way in which I can be comfortable and also show on camera. Okay. So I'm going to put my needle through this first bead from the other side. Gonna move from here to this bead, because when I put them together they align. So if they align, I'm going to insert my needle into this bead. I insert it, then I pull like this. So with the first step we're done. So I feel like for this part of the headband, there's no correct way to do it. You just have to maneuver your needle and make sure that it's neat. So now that I'm on this point, I'm just going to move a bit up through the beads, through the wall of the beads. In between and through is not the same thing, no? I'm going to move through the bead wall, the outlining of the beads. Okay, so now I'm at this point and I realize that I can insert my thread into this bead. So I'm going to do just that. Take my needle, insert my needle into the other side, the other end of my thread, of my belt, like this. Then I realized that I can also insert my needle into this. This bead is a stopper bead, no? So I'm just going to pause and insert my needle off camera because I have to be really careful, otherwise everything will just fall apart. So I managed to put my needle through my stopper bead. So now I have to lay my belt down and I realized that, ooh, I have a big gap here. So I have to try my best to get my needle to this point or this point where I can add more beads to close this gap. So I've decided to move to my right hand side and move around this bead vine just in between and get to this point so that I can add beads and close nicely. So I insert my needle through the blue beads, maybe the two blue beads, and then I go down, making sure that my thread is nice and discreet. Move down, take the first two beads, and then set my needle on the first, on this, the other two beads, like this. Then I put it down. So I have to move across like this and add a couple of beads, maybe 3 or 2. So when I measure 3 beads, they fit exactly nice and perfect. So I'm just going to insert my needle here. Then I pull just to bash. Then when I look, it is nice in place. So I also noticed that there is a bit of a gap here, so something has to be done. So what I'm going to do, I move down through the beads and get to this point. So I'm going to move downwards here. First bead, the second bead like this. I get to this bead. And set my needle into the 2 beads that are below, like this. Then now I insert my needle here on this bead, the other end, joining the 2 beads like this. And there we go. So I keep putting it down and see if it works, if everything fits nicely. And you see that, okay, it goes well. I'm quite confident with where I am. I feel that there is nothing more extra that I can do. There's no more places to patch. There's no more anything else that I can do. So at this point, I can start tying the thread and make sure that it's nice in place, and then I cut off the thread, the excess thread. But I've realized something before I cut off my thread. There is this gap. It's not a gap per se, but I have to join these 2 beads together. This is what I meant when I mentioned that there is no right way of doing this. So I've decided on joining a thread here, so that, because now I ran out of thread, so that I can move around and find a way of joining these 2 beads so that I won't have this big hole here. So I joined here. This is my old thread. So my mission now is to get to this point where I can join and close this hole. So I'm going to move nicely on the sides like this, and then I move up. Move up like this. This is what happens when you work with elastic. Yay, yay, yay. Hi, Shem. It's like grade R kids on the first day of school. Like this. You have to keep being in control of it. You need to be really patient. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how it can best stay, whether like this or like this, and how I can move my thread. Okay, so I'm going to move a bead up, and then I'm going to join here, like create an arc like this. Join here and move down and see how it stays. And I pull my thread just to make sure. And then look at how it stays. Okay, so to me it looks like it's sitting well. I should also join these two, so I'm going to move down like this. Elastic thread button, then move on the side, the same loop route I went through, then I move up like this, and up again. So another thing, I have to make sure this is neat. So I'm trying to contemplate and think, if I move like this, just like this, will there not be too much thread? And what happens if I move like this from the top? Let's see how it happens. Okay, I pull, then I pull like this, then I insert here, then I pull. Now my aim is to move to the end, the edge of the belt. Then I pull, and then I move here to the edge. Then I pull, and it's like this. So now I have to trim here all those threads nicely and make it neat. So these are the final results after cleaning up the belt. I tucked in knots. So now I cut off loose thread. So now I'm just gonna tighten up here because I'm done. Then we're going to move on to the next step of this headband. So I make one knot. The knots for this thread, they always stick out. So I discovered that it's better to tuck them in between the beads because the beads are already big in size. So I make my last knot. And pull nicely. So the knots, I just tuck them in using my needle. Then I cut off the excess thread using my mini scissor. So here it is. This is where we joined. Not bad, not bad. This is our headband. So now I want to do this thing of just making nice circles here using the colors that I've been using for this belt. So this is the front part, this is the back. I'm going to move from this point to this point. I'm going to make just nice round loops. So this is my thread tied nicely. I'm going to insert my needle here at this point. And I'm just going to create a design choice by choosing nice colors that are related to the pattern. And I'll be back. There's one point I forgot to mention. I keep missing points today. To insert my needle here, make it brighter. Yes, to insert my needle here so that my needle will be nicely in between these two beads. So this is the pattern that I decided on. I'm gonna take it and insert it, see, here, and pull, and then move on to the next by just moving straight, inserting into one more bead, and then I pull. Then I'm going to create another loop. Then I take the other loop and I insert it here in between the two beads like this, and then I pull, and then I insert into one more bead next to it, and then I pull. Then I create another loop, and then I'm going to create one more loop. Oops, oh, my hands are hiding, blocking the light. How could you, hands? Then I insert like this. Then I'm done. This is where I'm going to stop. So now I have my nice pattern here in front. I can also add one, but I'm running out of thread. I think this is nice. No, I don't think. I'm quite confident this is gorgeous. So this is the final product. I was quite sad about the one more loop, but I feel that it's gorgeous. I feel like I have a Miriam Makeba alter ego inside me as I'm wearing this headband. So gorgeous, so gorgeous. Thank you so much for watching, Queens and Kings. I love you guys so much. Remember to respect yourself, to love yourself, to value yourself, and have fun. See you on the next video. Bye. Oh, if you love the content that you're seeing, please consider subscribing. Bye.